Good morning, Asim sir. Good morning,
Good
Asim.
morning. How are you, Bhavik?
I am very good, sir. Thank you very much for sparing time with me this morning for this interaction.
Welcome. You are always welcome.
Also provide us an opportunity to know you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, you have authored lot many books by now. First,
Right.
first and foremost, we need to know how come you actually spare out time in writing books out of your very busy
Okay.
schedule.
Let me give the answer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me give the answer in brief. Actually, it was a question of survival for me. The first book was merely a question of survival because I had nothing to do. I did not have sufficient practice. In 3 years, I hardly got about 2 cases only in the initial years. So I thought of doing specialization because I thought that in general practice, there is too much competition. So I thought of specialization, and then idea struck to my mind that in excise and customs law there is less competition, and one of my childhood friends had carved out a niche in the field of excise and customs law. So I started writing without having any practical experience in excise law. I just started reading excise law and then thought of translating it into Gujarati for the benefits of the local manufacturers and traders and those who are required to pay excise duty and customs duty. So, since I had nothing to do, the first journey of the first book was a question of survival. I thought that by that medium, I would be able to enter into the field of excise and customs, and that is how I will be able to survive in the profession. And the first book, it's an interesting aspect that nobody was willing to publish it, so I published it myself. And then the question of selling the books arose, and it was a difficult task because the booksellers would demand 40 to 50% of commission, and it was not possible for me to agree to it. So I myself appointed one salesman, and the got the book sold. And for publication also, I borrowed 35,000 from my friend because I did not have money at that time. So I borrowed it. I requested my wife to help me out in selling the books. She would go to post office and dispatch the books to the manufacturers, and that is how. And later on, fortunately, after first publication, I got the publisher, and thereafter for next 4 years, it was published every year. So first book was merely a question of survival.
Nice to hear this, sir. Your difficult time when you face that. So, what are the other books that has been published, sir?
The other books are, the second book was Contempt of Courts Act. That is also an interesting story because how I started with the contempt of court, because I was always being ridiculed by one judge, particular judge. Whenever I got opportunity before him, he would get angry upon me, and I had nothing to do or nothing to retort or explain anything against that judge. So I was humiliated, literally humiliated by that judge. So that happened. Because of this, I first of all wrote one article. That is how a judge is expected to conduct himself in Temple of Justice, which has been published in AIR 2001 or 2002. I'm not sure. So that is how my journey started. And then I thought that judges are suppressing our advocacy. They are not allowing us to speak in the court without fear. So the only thing which they have is contempt power. So let me understand the contempt power. And thereafter, after that article got published, I received many compliments, even compliments from judges also, that you have written a very bold article. And one of the judges complimented me in the presence of that very judge who used to humiliate me. That, have you read the article of Mr. Asim Pandya? That judge said, no, I don't read articles and editorials. That is the job of idle lawyers. So then the journey started of writing a book on the Contempt of Courts Act. Then again, there are bad experiences with the police machinery also. In 2-3 cases, I had a very bad experience of police. So I started searching what are the police powers. So then the third book was Rights of Arrested Persons, Investigation and Bail, because essentially the police machinery is equipped with such a wide power that it is difficult to answer them, or it is difficult to thwart their power. So ultimately, I made research and then wrote this book, understanding what are their powers. So that was a third book. And then Writs and Constitutional Remedies, that was published in 2009 by Butterworth LexisNexis. And the fifth book was on law of bail, that was in 2013 and reprint in 2015. Today I am revising the third edition of Contempt of Court Act, and it is likely to be published after this lockdown period is over, most likely by July 2020. I think it will come in.
How could you spare time now to write? Continue with your writing?
Yes, the schedule is quite busy. I had many matters to attend every day. But from day one, I have imbibed this habit from Honorable Justice C.K. Thakkar, because when I joined the profession, he was a lawyer. And he is a voracious reader. He would write books also. So he would sit in the last row and keep writing in the court itself. Now we have a facility of display board. So in reference library, there is a display board. So as soon as I get free, I immediately rush to the reference library, start doing research, and I utilize the period from 11 to 5, wherever the time permits. So it's a question of time management. Nobody can say that I don't have time. If you have heavy and passion for it, it is always possible to find a time for it and write or read something which is of your choice. So that is how I utilize the time, and then Saturdays and Sundays also I spare about 1 or 2 hours for reading and doing research on the topic which I am writing.
So how were your school days, and how have you came into the profession? What is the background?
Let me be candid to you that I was not a very good student. I was not at all a brilliant student. A little better than the average student. So up to BCom, I got 60%, 61%, 58%, not above that. And once I reached the age of 20, 21, I was immensely interested in Indian classical music. I wanted to pursue the tabla as a profession. So in search of that, I even found one guru at Banaras, Pandit Samta Prasad ji. I initiated talk with him also, and he agreed to accept me as his disciple. But then I realized that if I start career in tabla at the age of 22, it would be at least 7 years training. Thereafter, I could be a professional tabla player. So ultimately, I abandoned the idea of going to that. And I found nothing to do because I was absolutely fit for nothing. There was no other avocation which would accept me. So having no choice, I joined the LLB course, and there also I was not interested keenly to pursue that study seriously. So I hardly attended 2-3 lectures in 3 years, and even I failed twice. I I failed twice in LLB, which never happens to anyone in those days, because LLB was considered to be a very easy course, post-graduation course. But because of a lack of interest, I failed in LLB twice, and 6 months were spoiled in that process. But thereafter, I joined the profession, not by conscious choice, but it was a default. By default, I joined the profession.
So you have studied your education throughout in Gujarati medium, vernacular language.
Right.
How difficult it was for you to cope up with the language, which is language of the court now, English, and what actually have you done to cope up with that? What have you done to cope up with that situation?
Yeah, it was really a Herculean task for me. I had studied throughout in Gujarati medium. Even LLB I did in Gujarati medium. Only the LLM masters I did in English medium. So when I joined the profession, in my life, I had never spoken a single sentence in English. So it was a very tough task for me. I was so hesitant. I was so shy. When I joined the profession, the perception of mine was that once I obtain the degree and I wear a black coat, I will be an advocate. That's all. So that was my perception of the advocate. But when I joined the profession, I saw so many lawyers. They were fluent in English. They had expression power. They have command of language, command over law also. And I lacked in all these three areas. So it was indeed a great and very hard task for me. So what I started reading Times of India. Every day I will read the Times of India aloud. Loudly I will read and then find out difficult words. And then I would look into the dictionary, the meaning of the word. And that is how I built up my vocabulary. And gradually the expression power also increased. So I was very diffident in the initial days. So upbringing also matters because I was never exposed to public speaking or drama or something which gives an exposure to a child to interact with public or make public performances. So it was really a difficult task, and that is how I try to overcome the problems. And gradually, every day I would see to it that at least I learned 5 new words from the dictionary. So that is how it happened.
So how have you started with your professional career, since there was no background and even it was not your zeal to join the profession, but somehow because of no other options you came into the profession? How have you started?
Oh, okay. Actually, entering into the profession was also again a very difficult problem for me because nobody knew me, or my father was also not knowing anyone. But by chance, he happened to meet Mr. Senior Advocate Mr. K.G. Vakhare in those days, and he said that my son has recently completed LLB. He would like to join your office. Would you accommodate him? So Mr. Vakharia said that yes, please send him. In fact, he had at that time 7 juniors. So I was the 8th one. But he was kind enough to agree to take me as his junior. But unfortunately, in 2 years with him, the work never percolated up to me. As I said, there were 8 juniors ahead to me, and they were quite competent. So I even did not get opportunity to mention in the court for 1 year. So that is how this journey started, and I started my journey without any vehicle. I would go on foot to his office because his office was about 20 minutes distance, at the distance of 20 minutes. So I would walk up to his office, and then in his car or some colleagues two-wheeler, I would go to court. So that is how the journey started. And for initial 2 years, almost I can say that I was even without stipend, without any money, without any vehicle. So very difficult days I have faced also. But that's not a big deal because there are so many stories in this profession where people have faced a similar situation. So I'm not saying that something which I have done was great. So that is how the journey started. So thereafter, one day, because of some misunderstanding, I was unceremoniously expelled from that office, first office. But later on, that misunderstanding was removed, and now I have very good relation with my senior advocate in whose office I work. And then the search again began, which office to join. So at that time, Mr. Yatin Oza, now senior advocate and president of our association, was in need of some juniors. So I joined his office, and in his office, I got tremendous confidence because he would repose trust in his juniors. He started allocating me work of drafting, appearances in small matters. And that is how I started gaining confidence in his office. So the exposure in his office, he is a kind-hearted person. He was very good to juniors. So I enjoyed, but later on somehow I thought that a lawyer needs to be independent someday. So at that time, I would agree that my professional career has many twists and turns and ups and downs, and it is a bumpy ride. It was never smooth. So, and I have committed very egregious blunders in my career. So I thought that let me become independent, even though I did not have any context with the client. At that time, after 2 years working with Mr. Yatin Oza, I was looking for an office. I did not have money, but I was seeking some arrangement with some lawyer friend. And fortunately, one of my old colleagues had space in his office, and the office was owned by his father-in-law. So he accommodated me. In that entire year, I did not have a single brief. So I wrote that book on excise law. And the misfortune was that suddenly one day that colleague told me that we will have to vacate the office. I said, why? He said that my wife has divorced me. So, so father-in-law is now demanding back the possession. So again, without any office, I was in the profession. And since I had written that book on excise law, and there was a vacancy in the office of senior advocate Mr. Sudhir Nanavati, he immediately asked me whether I was willing to join his office or not. And I said, hey, yes, I need money. I don't have money. I am in need of money. So I immediately joined his office, and then the entire scenario changed. His office is a very big office, huge infrastructure. It has an exposure all over India. He used to have office in Bombay, Delhi. So, and I particularly looked after customs and excise cases in his office. So I got an opportunity to appear in CIGAT, which was considered to be Central Excise Customs and Gold Control Appellate Tribunal in those days. So Western region in Bombay and in R.K. Puram in Delhi. So I would appear in all those benches. And in his office, I was exposed to a very super rich culture, elite class people. I started staying in Oberoi, Taj, and all those things. So that again boosted my confidence, and I got many opportunity to appear in this tribunal, and that is how the career started developing. And this additional boost in the form of exposure to the elite class, traveling in aeroplanes, in business classes, and all those things was of tremendous help to me in gaining confidence. So that is how the third phase of my career. And then again, I thought that there is no fun in being junior all the time. So I was looking for some other accommodation of entering into a partnership firm. And finally, I joined Mr. Vijay Patel, who was member of parliament at that time. And nobody was there to look after his office. His office was running into losses. That is what he said at that time. And I joined his office as a partner. And after I joined the partnership firm with Mr. Vijay Patel, we have never seen losses in the office. We started earning a good deal of amount, and career also started progressing. He was a very kind person. The partnership lasted for about 17 years. So in true sense, I became independent only in 2013. Prior thereto, I was a partner. But while working with his partnership, I established my identity. To establish an identity, very difficult job for a person who has no legal background. Because if you don't have legal background, the judges don't know you. So it took 10 years, 10 to 11 years to make myself known to the judges. Only when I joined the office of Mr. Vijay Patel, people started recognizing me, because everything was in my exclusive control, because he would be busy with his political activities. So all throughout this partnership worked very well. And ultimately in 2013, when his son became a lawyer, I thought that let me hand it over to Mr. Vijay Patel and his son. So I parted happily, and then I started my practice in 30. So in this 17 years, I could establish myself in the profession of law.
Right, sir. Sir, you had been also elected as a vice president and president of the Gujarat High Court Advocate Association. How could you, after having been struggled so much, how could you also establish wide relations with the bar?
Somehow I have a very good relationship with every person in the bar. I don't have enemies in the bar. All are friends. All are kind to me. Juniors are more particularly very kind to me. Seniors have also nurtured me. They have tried to bring out best out of me. So interaction with the juniors and seniors was always very good. And somehow my temperament is to bring reforms in every system. Wherever, suppose if I am working in the bar association or I am a member of the bar, I would always see to it that the institution brings reforms for the benefit of the lawyers. So because of that temperament, I felt that if I hold some position, I will be in a position to bring some reforms for the benefit of my brothers. And that is how I started entering it. I had never contested the election for the committee member. I directly contested the election of vice president, remained vice president for 2 terms. And then there was a rule that president cannot be allowed to continue for more than 3 terms, and there was a requirement of cooling off period. So by just fortuitous circumstance, I got an opportunity because Mr. Yatinoza, who is a very popular leader of the bar, was not in a position to contest because of this requirement of the rule. So I got an opportunity, and by that time I had completed 2 years as vice president. So the task was little easy, and I had worked very hard when I was vice president. We arranged seminars and legal seminars. We arranged many other things. So it was, and again, help of seniors like Mr. Yatinoza and other persons got me elected to the post of president of the association.
Sir, you are also equally involved in education field. What reforms do you see to be brought into the education of legal profession?
If we compare the education system which we have undergone, or through which we have passed our LLB or we have obtained the degree, it was not that good system. Right now, the education is very good. 5 years course, and the colleges have also improved the infrastructure. The faculty members are also doctorate in their field. And all these students who are pursuing law study in 5 years course get opportunity to attend moot courts. They have got they get opportunity to intern with seniors. They get opportunity to intern with judges, honorable judges. So very wide exposure they get. So as soon as they complete 5 years course, I think they are ready material, so they can start their practice. But again, law profession is different. So mere acquiring this academic knowledge is not sufficient, because practical aspects are totally different. Ground level realities are totally different. So one has to work very hard, and one has to develop a temperament, how to present his case with utmost humility, and how to convince a judge. These are the arts which one needs to acquire to be a successful lawyer. So that needs at least 2 years grooming, 2 or 3 years grooming, even though a person is fully equipped after law graduation. So now I think it's a very good system. I don't think that there should be some additional requirement in the law course.
Right, sir. Sir, any important or some interesting litigations that you have came across during your career, sir?
There are many interesting cases which I have handled. The most important case to my mind is that my appearance in the Supreme Court in that Indira Jaisingh's case, where Miss Indira Jaisingh wanted reforms in the system of designation of senior advocates, and the Gujarat High Court Advocate Association filed intervention application through you in that matter, and challenging the constitutionality and validity of Section 16.
Right.
So it was an interesting litigation. And one very important litigation which comes to my mind is that please never judge your case, because you are not a judge, you are a lawyer. You have to accept the brief by just broadly discussing the pros and cons of the matter. You have to guide your client properly that he has a reasonably good case or a reasonably weak case, but no case is ever a dead case. That I would just highlight, because one case came to me where the case had traveled from trial court up to Supreme Court. So trial court, first appellate court, second appeal, and SLP. And there were two review litigations at second appeal stage also. And SLP stage also, there were two review petitions came to be filed and dismissed. So all everywhere, barring the first court, trial court, the client had never succeeded. So first appellate court, second appellate court, reviews, SLB, everything got dismissed. And at the stage of execution, where possession of land was to be taken over, I was briefed by one lawyer, and I had to appear as senior advocate. I said that you are approaching me at this stage. But then I looked into the case and I found out one or two important aspects. One was of quorum non judice, and second is fraud. You are aware that fraud vitiates most solemn act, and it would be a nullity. So I developed 2 points and filed a petition, and got stay at that stage also. Even at the stage of execution, having lost petitions before Supreme Court, SLPs, review applications, everything, and coincidentally, or to the fortune of my client, the judge was bold enough to grant me protection. So you cannot judge. You have to try your best. You have to guide your client that this is a weak case, or a little bit weak case, or this is a good case. That's all.
So whom do you consider now to be your idol or a mentor?
Actually, in my initial days, I used to admire Mr. Kirit Rawal, his advocacy, his language. I used to admire Mr. S.B. Vakil. He was very methodological. He was to the point, and he was courageous also. In the same way, senior advocate Mr. Vittal Patel, who was a Dion, and he was also very outspoken, and he would not be afraid of any judges. And so those qualities I like the most. Supreme Court advocates are very good. So Mr. Harish Salve, Mr. Rawati, all these people, in fact, my temperament is to learn from everyone. I would learn from you also. I would learn juniors also, because I find if any good quality, even in a junior, I will try to learn and imbibe it. So all are my mentors, and I consider them to be a part of my life.
So what do you expect from an advocate that briefs you on a matter?
In fact, when an advocate comes to me, at least he should be fully aware of the facts. He should not simply come with the case papers and just throw it for our perusal. When he comes, he should be fully equipped with the facts and at least law in a broader sense. He may not have researched too much, because he is engaging me for that purpose, that I will take care of it, the entire matter, as a senior advocate. But at least this is expected, that he should come prepared with at least chronology of events. He should not hide any important or material fact, and he should present his case to me in a candid manner without concealing anything. That is what I expect from the lawyers who brief me.
Sir, how do you prepare matter by yourself? When the matter is being briefed, then you prepare the matter. What is the method that you adopt?
Yes. So I start with chronology because when you start with chronology, it unravels many important hidden aspects of the case. And if you properly arrange this sequence of events, then you will be able to find out many factual aspects on which you can develop your case. So I always tell my colleagues that please prepare chronology properly so that you will realize that there are things you can connect certain acts with certain dates, and you can create a case based on extraneous consideration, nullified exercise of power. So you will be able to coordinate those dates and events with the actual decision taken. So that is most important aspect. And fortunately, since I have done so many books, authored so many books, so the law is always clear to me, because people see controversy from this angle. I have a larger dimension. I can see the controversy from a higher angle. So, fact, clarity of law is always there. So, it is a very helpful tool for preparation of and cases. Fortunately, I remember by names and the page numbers. So, at least I remember more than 500 cases by name, and which judge delivered their judgment and what were the facts of the case. It is not that merely what was laid down in the case. So, and maybe around 100, 150 cases I remember by page number also. So, whenever any brother lawyer is searching some case law, he would ask me, and I will answer with the citation and page number. Most of the time, it turns out to be correct page number.
Right, sir. Excellent memory, sir. Sir, what are your other hobbies other than writing and the legal profession? What hobbies you
Oh,
pursue?
this is a great question, because I am full of life. I have so many hobbies. I have pursued, I think, every aspect of art. Every art I have pursued. Every sports I have pursued. So first love is badminton. I play badminton at least thrice a week or twice a week. I recently I have started playing veteran tournament also. For last couple of years, I have attending also tournaments. So badminton is the first love. Indian classical music is a second love. So without that also I cannot survive. It's a food for me. And fitness, whatever may be the busy schedule, I always believe that fitness is the first thing which one must focus on, because through healthy body you enjoy all your senses. So fitness is very important thing. I spare at least 1 hour to 1.5 hours every day, whatever may be the busy schedule. Only if very tough matter is that I skip that fitness regime on that day. But usually at least 5 to 6 days I do exercises or play badminton. So these are the things which I pursue. And the tabla is also my hobby. So during this period, I have utilized it. I play about for 1.5 hours every day tabla during this period of lockdown. I play keyboard. I am fond of even vocal music, Indian classical. So sometimes I sing also. So that is how uh, and the most important aspect is that I would say that person's growth should be horizontal, not vertical. Because if you try to grow vertically, after some period you will find emptiness, because nobody is there at that stage who would give you company. But if your growth is horizontal, if you pursue your hobbies, you will have real sense of enjoyment in your life. So that is an advice. And it reminds me that one statement of Mr. Robin Sharma. In his one book, he has said that "Men sana in corpore sano." So in healthy body dwells healthy mind.
Right.
It is vice versa also. If you have a healthy mind also,
You develop.
then you will have a healthy body. So these are the main important sutras,
Right.
which I daily life.
Right, sir. Sir, how are you utilizing your time during this lockdown period?
Yes, as I said that 1.5 hour every day in the morning doing yoga exercises, then playing keyboard, harmonium, reading something and researching something, because during these days also I got an opportunity because I'm fond of legal history also, history of the profession, how the legal system evolved in India. And since I am writing a book on constitutional remedies, it is a matter of great interest for me to examine even Constituent Assembly debates and a lot many historical. And history is very important in our field, because if you view any legal provision divorced from history, you will not be able to interpret it properly. So if you want to interpret Article 227, you must know that it started from Section 15 of the Indian High Court Act 1861, Section 107 of the Government of India Act 1919, and Section 224 of the Government of India Act 1935, and what changes were made, which has culminated into Article 227 in present form. So all these things are very necessary for proper interpretation, proper and correct interpretation. So
right.
I spare time in also.
Great, sir. Sir, what changes do you expect to see in our legal fraternity post-lockdown after we all have the time to self-introspect?
I would say that this would be like Smashan Vairagya. So, so we whenever we go for funeral, we feel that life has no meaning and all those things. So people would react or respond very quickly. They would start liking their work for about 6 months, because now they have realized that without doing work, sitting at home, doing nothing is not fun, not at all a great job. So they would start liking their work. But as I said, that it would be like within 6 months again, they would come back to their original nature. So 6 months would be definitely very positive for all of us and legal profession.
Sir, any career advice that you have specific to me?
Okay, I'm too small a person to advise you, but being a friend, I would say that I have always pursued this profession with utmost honesty, integrity, and truthfulness. Even I have no problem whenever I make a statement in the court would readily believe my statement. So that is the reputation which I have gained. So if you want to really pursue, I would say that do not give up honesty, truthfulness, and courage. One has to have courage also to stand up and speak whenever occasion arises. Not that every time you have to take out swords out of your and then start fighting with the judges. This is what I would say to you. It would not be an advice, but just sharing my view.
I not, sir. I take note of it, sir. Thank you. Asim, sir, thank you very much for spending time this morning.
Thank you very much. On the contrary,
I hope
you are always welcome.
I hope you not missed your exercise for me.
Let me see if I can again rejoin exercise, because probably the time is gone. But anyway, but sometime it happens. It doesn't. There's no issue. You are always welcome, and it is nice speaking to you. You are a brilliant lawyer, and I wish you all the best in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.